The great thing for us as a family is that we're not motivated by money. I think when you become highly motivated by money, when money becomes the principal value of a business, I think that is the moment when you risk losing everything.
And welcome back to Building Nebraska, a podcast for dreamers and doers, proudly powered by the Engler Agribusiness Entrepreneurship Program at the University of Nebraska. What would it be like running a business with your brother? Well, that's a question I asked Todd Baker of Baker's Candy. Their dad started all this back after he was without a job and needed to pivot a little bit. So what did he do? He started a chocolate factory in Greenwood, Nebraska. Today, as I mentioned, Todd and his brother are running the operations, and in today's episode, we're going to talk about that family dynamic and how they make it all work to produce 50 million chocolates each year.
All right, a couple family-related questions for you. You started this, your dad started when you were 6, you said. You practically grew up around here, not here, but in the chocolate factory, then eventually here. Now you're running it as the chief executive officer alongside your brother. Were there any moments that you thought, hey, maybe this isn't for me, or did you always think you were going to come back and do this?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So one of the things actually that my dad encouraged both my brother and I to do is to do something other than this at some point in our life. It turns out that there are probably certain skills that might be more valuable. If this place was to burn down tomorrow, there are certain skills that would be more valuable or marketable if we would have to provide for our family without the chocolate factory. And so I think he was wise in addressing the fact that right now my kids really don't know anything except for how to make chocolate. So I actually, after I received my undergraduate degree from the University of Nebraska, I went on and did 2 years of seminary and thought about doing full-time ministry. I actually did a pastoral internship with a church in Omaha. Ministry is a personal passion of mine, something that I thought that I might be fulfilled in doing, and so I wanted to give that an opportunity. But at the end of that pastoral internship, what I realized is that the only thing I'm really good at is making chocolate. So I enjoyed having the experience outside of these walls, but I very much welcomed the opportunity to come back into the family business. And when I did that, I was able to find a way to do this as a full-time job and occupation, but to still be able to do ministry on top of it and never have to charge for the thing that I love to do. And so in that sense, I've been able to meld, I think, both of my passions together to form a life outside of here. The same thing is true of my brother. The same thing is also true of each of my children. Each of them will be given an opportunity to do something else. And if any of them are crazy enough to choose to come into the family business as we were, then there will be space here for them.
Mm-hmm. What happens when there's disagreements within the family?
Yeah, so disagreement is an important part of understanding how to run a family business. And if you don't think there's disagreement, you're fooling yourself. I don't know anyone in family business who can't point to opportunities for disagreement. The way we handle that here in our factory is we've carved out unique space, unique roles for each of us. We've essentially divided the business into portions, with each of us handling our own portion of the business. And although we have advice for each other when it comes to how we'd like to see things done, we've learned to respect one another and our elements of the business that we have mastered. And so respect becomes a critical component of understanding how to run the business. And when it comes to making decisions, based on where that decision is being made, we've come to the agreement that you always have to respect whoever is in charge of that area. The great thing for us as a family is that we're not motivated by money. I think when you become highly motivated by money, when money becomes the principal value of a business, I think that is the moment when you risk losing everything. For us, our number one value, as I mentioned earlier, my mom made sure of this, the number one value of this business is family. And so family always comes before profit. It always comes before productivity. It always comes before everything else. And so at the end of the day, when a difficult decision has to be made, the question we ask each other is what is best for the family? And based on the answer to that question, we're usually able to resolve basically any problem that we run into.
Mm-hmm. Well, maybe it's a similar answer, but I always like to get your thoughts on advice you'd give somebody maybe in similar shoes. So to that point about family dynamics, somebody who's looking to maybe re-enter an operation, established entrepreneurship business that has family ties, what advice would you give them?
Yeah, so as far as running the business, and I hope that I do an adequate job of answering your question.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm gonna do my best here. In terms of re-entering a family business, let me take a step back real quick. I think there are two kinds of people who are raised in family businesses. I think subsequent generations, if you're a second generation, maybe you grew up in a family business, the odds are that you either grew up in an environment where A, you were entitled to some kind of management role simply because you shared the last name with the first generation ownership, or B, when you were exactly the opposite. In the second category, you were always expected to carry an outsized portion of the responsibility. You were always expected to be the hardest worker in the plant. You were always expected to prove yourself at every opportunity to be worthy of the position that you would one day assume. I think there are both kinds of family businesses. I can only speak to the one that I know, which is the second. My dad insisted that my brother and I always be the pace setters in the business. If we weren't the hardest working people in the factory, we would never earn the respect of those whom we would one day have to lead. And so through hard work, we have found that respect is always earned. That's true in small business. Ironically enough, it's true in ministry. The Apostle Paul once told the Thessalonians that they had to earn the respect of their community by working hard if they wanted to have their message believed. And so it was through hard work that you earn people's respect, and that's a value, I guess, that we've taken into our family business as well. We earn the respect of whoever it is that we happen to be working alongside through hard work. And so the best advice that I can give to anyone who wants to kind of earn their way back into a family business is to do that by hard work.
Wise words. Very well said.
Yeah.
All right. Favorite kind of chocolate you make is?
Oh, should be a layup, but it's actually answer is going to sound like an easy out. Whatever we're making today. Chocolate begins to lose its flavor from the moment it's produced. So when you get used to eating those chocolate melt-aways right off the production line, it gets almost impossible to ever go to a store and buy one off a shelf or to pick one off that was manufactured a long time ago. The truth is, we all eat the chocolate every single day. Taste testing is an important part of the process, but we like to do it when the chocolate is fresh and coming right off the end of the production line.
How do you control yourself? I mean, eat chocolate every single day, every time you're running. That's got to go to the belt line.
Yeah, that's a great question. It helps we spend 12 hours a day on our feet. Sitting down with you is about as long as I'll sit in any given day. But that being said, I will say, when you've been doing this as long as we have, you get to a point where it starts to taste a little bit like work. I would never say that chocolate tastes bad.
Yep.
It's wonderful. But it does start to taste like work when you've been doing it as long as we have. And so for us, what that means is we're so critical of chocolate anytime we eat it. We're evaluating its taste, its substance. We're evaluating the way that it's melded together, the way it melts in our mouth. We think through the entire process, and I think oftentimes you almost forget to just simply enjoy the thing that you get to eat. Instead, you're simply working your way through the chocolate, and that might be one of the most unfortunate things about being in the chocolate business.
Well, this is such a cool story. What your dad started here, what you and your brother continue to run today. Thank you for being kind enough to share with us here on the podcast, Building Nebraska. Really appreciate you sitting down with us, Todd.
It's been an absolute privilege. Anytime.
I want to say thank you to Todd Baker for allowing our team to stop by. Well, I guess we turned it into our studio there in Greenwood, Nebraska on their factory floor. Enjoyed those conversations. If you missed one of them, be sure to go back as part of the Building Nebraska podcast. Coming up next week, we've got a new Nebraska business we'll be featuring on the podcast. Hope you'll join us then.